Hello, creative people. Welcome to Creative Conversations. My name is Hollis Citron, and we are so happy that you have chosen to spend this hour with us. So I am owner and founder of I Am Creative and Express Yourself Publishing, and I am on a mission to expand the definition of creativity beyond a pencil and a paintbrush and empower people, especially adults, to own their voice that come in so many different forms. So this space was created to talk with people with all different jobs, hobbies, and interests, and have conversations about experiences and perspectives, all centered around three questions. 1, how do you define creativity? 2, how do you incorporate it into your life? And 3, why do you think it's important? Then we have a free-flowing conversation, and we see where it goes. So I have had the opportunity to talk to musicians, Reiki masters, mediums, doctor, lawyer, real estate agents, and so many more. And these conversations explore the reality that creativity is not cute, it is necessary. People have defined creativity as their soul's essence, courage, imagination, basically all that we are and want to be. So sharing these stories expands one's thinking and opens up self-expression to feel more empowered, connected, and dare I say, happy. My inspiring guest for today is Stanley Dankoski. Stanley Dankoski is a book editor, publishing consultant, and founder of Grounded Writer Methodology. He loves working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs, coaches, health professionals, and nonfiction authors who aim to inspire or instigate positive change in the world. Stanley, welcome to this space. Okay, so Stanley, so happy to have you in this space. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I'm a book editor and publishing consultant, and I have created the Grounded Writer Methodology with my clients. And I have been working with clients since 2018. And I've noticed working with clients that writers are usually, they're sometimes they're not quite sure about what they are working with. And that's a normal frame of mind I find with creatives in general. Like, we doubt ourselves a lot. And sometimes we're not quite sure what we're doing or where we're going with it, but we're called to write something, or, whether it's writing or, painting or sculpting, whatever. Like, we just feel this calling and we don't know why we're doing it. And the Grounded Writer methodology is more about realigning with our purpose and the power that we have as creatives. So is that?
Yeah, no, that's okay. Great. That's great. Okay. And we're going to dive in more because there's so much depth to that that yes. I really, really want to go into. But I think that'll be a perfect way to kind of explore and marinate when we're doing the first question. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, thank you for that. But I just have to underline. I love how you feel the calling, but you don't know why. Because there's that awareness to it that people may feel it, but then they brush it off and they're like, nah, I don't know what that was, but.
Yeah, awareness is a huge component to this. And some people are not aware of what they're doing in their lives. But, maybe they start off as a doodler. They're stuck in a cubicle somewhere, like I was a long time ago. And I'm like, wait, what am I doing here? I had this calling to be a writer, and I'm not doing it. So then you try out a little bit, and you write something on a napkin or in a journal, and you're just not sure. But the more that you play with it, the more awareness you have, or if you allow yourself to play with the unknown, then the more aware you can be to see what else is there.
Okay, this is going to be good. Okay, yes. So here we go. We're going to do our would you rather question, and then we'll dive into the first question.
All right.
So, Stanley, would you rather never have had ice cream ever, or never candy for the rest of your life?
Never candy. I'm an ice cream guy. I'm dairy free, so I get the coconut milk ice cream, which at first it's like it doesn't compare to the real thing, you know, the dairy ice cream. But the favorite is Not a Moo brand, and my daughter and I just like have a little spoonful at a time, and we just kind of savor it. And then she goes for another spoonful. I'm like, no, let's just savor the spoonful. And then we actually made our own ice cream yesterday.
Ooh, what kind?
We like to do random recipes. So like we're creative in that respect as well. You know, just she likes to just look into the cupboard. She climbs up onto the counter, looks into the cupboard, and she finds flour and whatever, and she just mixes it together. And sometimes it tastes good. Sometimes it's like, what are you doing? So that is something that I've learned to just kind of let her do that and not, and I think we'll get into this in our conversation today about the inner and outer critic. That is a huge component to this, and letting our creativity flourish by not being handcuffed by what other people say we can or cannot do. That is huge. Yeah. And she'll, you know, back to my daughter, she'll learn, you know, pretty quickly. If it tastes awful, maybe try another recipe, right?
But that's, yeah, it's kind of like we want to step in, right? It's like this, because we're adults and we've had experiences and we know what goes together and what doesn't go together. But meanwhile, it's just, she's playing and she's experimenting and she's exploring, and she needs to find out certain things for herself, or she'll make discoveries that, oh, because we had these preconceived ideas thinking that would never go together. I mean, there are ice cream books written for like all of these recipes that you would never think these things would actually match. And I have to say, my husband has a show called Bald Guy in the Kitchen, and he makes up recipes and takes these recipes and like makes up movies with them. But the whole concept is that he's a chef. He loves cooking, but he's not a chef. But one of the things he did was a savory ice cream. So he did a cheese ice cream, but he did it, he kind of did like a Reuben out of it. So he put it on top of brisket. No, it wasn't a Reuben. He put it on top of like brisket or something, and then put like a horseradish or like a mustard sauce over it.
Yeah.
So you had like the sweet and the savory, and it was on a piece of bread. So he really liked it. And it was so funny because our kids love ice cream, and our son especially, you know, he dug into it thinking it was going to be something else. And he was just like, what the hell is that? He didn't expect cheese ice cream.
You know, this is good. I'm glad you told me this, because just yesterday, as we were making ice cream, I had the idea in my head of a savory ice cream. And I didn't think of it in those terms, but like, you know, what if we kind of like, when I first found out about breakfast pizza, you put scrambled eggs and potatoes on pizza. I'm like, what the heck is that? But like, that's an idea that I had that I kind of just brushed away. Yet other people have this idea, and it's not a bad idea. It's just different.
It's just different. It's just different. I'm going to share the link with you, so you can kind of, you can see it.
Yeah.
You want
I'm
to.
a bald guy, so it sounds like you're right up my alley.
But I think this is a great segue with this whole idea of not brushing it away, of the awareness. To kind of like listen to those whispers. Okay, so let's dive into the first question, which is, how do you define creativity?
In short, creativity is power. So you, as a creator, create something out of nothing. And that's like the most godlike act that we have. It's not to be taken lightly. And I didn't think of this until now, but it's sort of like that Jim Carrey movie. I think it's Bruce Almighty or something like that. Like he just suddenly has powers to do whatever. That's what creativity is. And we have an idea. We have an idea for savory ice cream, or we have an idea for, I have a life, let's say, that we think, or we talk to someone and we say our life story, and they're like, that could be a book, which people have told me. And we could look back on our lives and say, that was in the past. I want to live in the moment. I want to live in the future. Or we can look back on our lives and say, what can I learn from this? And what can I teach others about this? And, that's what really good memoir writers do. Even fiction writers pull from their lives, which not many, for some reason, fiction, novelists or short story writers, they try not to admit that. But, we're, as writers, we have the power within us, and the power is without us and around us. And we're pulling in our experiences, and we need to translate that into story. And even entrepreneurs, who I'm also helping lately with their, I call it acquisitions book. So if they have a funnel for their business online, and they want to attract new customers, a book could be a really good way to do that. And they have their own experiences as entrepreneurs to translate and to convert their knowledge, their power, their experiences into something that can help others. And that's why I love working with purpose-driven entrepreneurs and nonfiction writers, especially, because if they are tapped into this, they can hit the ground running and be aligned with their purpose. And they have the power to stick with their purpose or what they had in mind, but they also have the creativity and the power to veer off that line and go off on tangents and all that stuff. Because what creatives do really well is to connect random dots that they see in their lives. At least I do. I have like the worst analogies, because I can connect random dots together and somehow make sense out of what doesn't make sense. Does that make sense?
I think it does. And I think there's a lot of points that I want to touch on there. I think what you just said with the connecting random dots, I think it can be attributed to the way different people learn and the different way people process information. So some people are more visual, some people are more kinesthetic, some people are more auditory, some people are more, so we have kind of like our superpowers and strengths that can overlap. But I understand exactly what you're saying, because I kind of get like those literal sparks where I can almost feel like the neurons in my brain, kind of like something will pop in and then all of a sudden it's these random things. I mean, it could literally seeing a butterfly, I'm just going to say. And then all of a sudden these ideas come through with, oh, I like the color of the wings. Oh, that could translate into a pattern. Oh, it's like this, domino effect where all of a sudden I end up with a recipe when I was looking at, a butterfly's wings, so yeah.
I think that is the butterfly effect. The butterfly wings flapping causes the hurricane. Whether that's true or not, like it does the effect of the one butterfly or one person is monumental. Whatever we do, like we may not think we're creative, but whatever we do, how we are in the world just ripples out and affects others. And why not channel that to kind of bring in the topic here is like, why not channel that power and awareness into doing good in the world?
Yeah, and I think I wanted to address that, the topic in the beginning when you said, we all have ideas, creativity is power, that we invent things, it's not to be taken lightly, so true. I think that I forget where I was reading this, but it's just the idea that there's the idea of having that creative concept and just having it. But if you don't follow through with it and you don't form it, there's like basically the concept, there's the idea, and then there's the actual follow through. So, which is where the creativity really, there's kind of like, which I guess in thinking out loud, and you tell me what you think, it's kind of like, we have potentially different jobs, or just in the way that we see things. There's that person that gets the ideas, but they may not be the person to follow through. So they're like, I'm going to pass that along, which doesn't mean that they're less creative. It just means that they were the visionary.
Do you mean delegating certain parts of the idea?
Like I don't know how to, or I don't really have the interest in it of following through, but here's this download that I got. Here's the vision. You take it and run with it. And to another person, and then they take it and then they can make it an actual sculpted concept.
Well, I think it depends, because you were given the idea. What I've learned and what I believe now is that the story or the idea chose you. And I think that's an Elizabeth Gilbert's big magic kind of idea. But what I would say about what you're asking is that since you were the one given the idea, I would question whether you are the one to do it or you are the one to delegate it. If you're a leader, like if you're an entrepreneur and you're in a business and you do have a team, you got to know where your zone of genius is, right? So if you have the idea to create new income for your business, but you don't know how to handle Zoom or whatever, and you have a team, then yes. But in terms of knowing what is important, the entrepreneur who has the idea has to be responsible for that idea. So it's sort of like, I've heard other book coaches talk about birthing your book. That there's that feminine aspect to creating a book and bringing it out into the world. So you have that responsibility. It's almost like you're a parent for that story idea. I would say too that because the idea chose you, which is a strange way, I think, for some people who were not quite at this level of thinking about it this way, it may seem strange, but like, if you're able to have the idea, then you are responsible for that idea. And it's up to you to not delegate what is truly yours. Because and I think I'm saying it this way because I've had story ideas in the past that I would either say, okay, I'll get to that later. So in a way, I'm delegating it to my future self. Or, I would forget to write it down if I was too busy, or if I'm in a shower, I'm like, okay, that's a great idea. I better write that down. And then something happens and I forget. So there's that responsibility to take hold of that idea and nurture it. Because if you don't, the idea will go to someone else. It may go to another writer. You may have heard that there are no original ideas. And there's a really great video out there called Everything is a Remix. If you haven't seen it, it's like 20 or 30 minutes long. It's worth your time just to watch it. But the idea is, if you don't nurture that idea, someone else may do it instead. So if you had this idea for a book your whole life and you're like too scared to even approach it, which has happened to me, other people may write that book and you may look at their success and you may regret it. So that's probably a deeper answer to a question than you expected, but it's a serious thing to consider and to be aware of.
No, I'm really glad you took it to that level, because I think that you made amazing points on it. And I thought it was very important that you brought up the fact of, recognizing who you are and what kind of if you're an entrepreneur or, a CEO or, whatever level that you're at, if it's something that isn't your zone of genius and you need it to happen, then yeah, you kind of pass it along in order to nurture, to then bring it back to then happen. But I totally agree with that whole idea of these ideas that we have, because I've had this one concept for a certain thing for about 3 years, and it's been bubbling under the surface. I actually have put it on my phone as a reminder every day, 3 times a day. It comes up on my calendar that it exists and that it's, so all of a sudden, I think it was probably about 2 months ago, my daughter showed me a TikTok of the concept of what I want to do. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a choice. like, no, I know that there's variations kind of on what this idea is, but not to the extent of how I have it. I haven't seen it. So when I saw that, I looked at her and she's like, you don't have a choice, like do it or don't do it. So right. I have to say, within 2 weeks, I actually had a test group of people to do it. And I'm ready to take it to the next level, but it's like, yeah, it was kind of like the fire under my butt to be like, what you gonna do, Hollis? Right. Are you gonna do something or you're not gonna do something? Because that just hurt. It was like a pit in my stomach.
Right. And so, yes, so the just imagine what would have happened if you decided not to. Like that, the possibility of you doing it and not having done it, you like, depending on how significant that decision was, like that could have stayed with you for a very long time. And like you said, a pit in your stomach, that could have eaten away at you had you not done it. So that leads to a lot of negative self-talk and mindset. And I think we can go into that probably in the next question a little bit more, but yeah, that there could be consequences if you do not express yourself creatively.
So actually, I want to dive a little bit deeper in this space before we move on. Tell us more about your grounded writer methodology.
Okay. So the grounded writer methodology really incorporates pretty much everything that I've learned in my life, not just about writing methodology, although of course that plays a huge part. But in terms of, this is probably a good segue into this, the tension that we feel when we have this calling to create something or write something, and whether we actually follow through on it or not. So the grounded writer is about embodying the purpose that you feel. And maybe it doesn't feel like purpose yet, but it's just this strange idea that you feel you must write, or you feel you must paint, etc. If you are just thinking in your head about this idea, you could do pretty well, but with embodying the idea, you feel it in your body. You write with all of your senses. And that is really getting to the heart of what you want to write about. Because if you're not really embodying your idea, you're probably writing based on what you expect others want to read, or what others expect out of you. So it's really getting to the heart of not just the idea, but to the heart of yourself. So getting out of the head into the heart, but it doesn't even stop there. You need to embody your whole body into it. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do yoga or meditation, although those things do help. I haven't done yoga in a while, but I do meditation fairly regularly. And as I'm talking to you now, I'm at a standing desk and I'm standing. So I'm feeling the ground as I talk. So I'm feeling my connection to the earth. I'm feeling my connection to my surroundings. And what does that have to do with writing? I think it feels more powerful when you are creating from that space. And others have written about flow. There's a book called Flow about like getting into the zone of your genius and not getting the internal critic involved, or the external critic, like just whatever doubts that you have, or whatever criticisms you hear from other people, those will always be there. Like that internal critic will always be there. But if you're operating and aligned with the power of the purpose, then you will create from a deeper truth than what you probably could do just writing out of your head.
My gosh, I love that. Oh my gosh, create. That was like such beautiful words. Because yeah, I mean, it just makes, you're using all of your senses. You're standing powerfully, like you said. At this point, you're standing in the ground, you're standing balanced on both feet. And you can feel the difference when you're not balanced, because someone can knock you. Like if someone could come over and knock you off your center, you can easily just fall off your center. You lose your balance. And when you lose your balance, it kind of translates, everything translates into how you express. Because if you're frenetic, if your brain's all over the place, then you can't express verbally or physically really what you want to do, because you're too scattered or you're stuck in the emotion. Where it's not to say it doesn't happen. We're human, like it's what happens, but you kind of then become aware that that's not the time to do that kind of writing. Or on the other hand, I'm thinking of, when an artist, a visual artist, quote unquote, gets this, they're crazy, they get, and they can create and produce when they're in that state, because they see more colors and they see more movement and action. Like, I guess it really depends on what you're doing and what the intention is, I guess, in talking through it.
Yes, intention. I'm glad you brought that up. Intention is the way into this, because without intention, you could go all over the place. you could probably be grounded and write stream of consciousness, and that's a really awesome way to write. But intention kind of gives that the chaos of creativity. It gives some boundaries to what you want to align with that purpose. So back to the grounded writer methodology, like what I've started to introduce in my social media is the spiral pattern. So Kurt Vonnegut famously came up with story shapes, and it was part humorous, part tongue in cheek, but it was inspiring to me to think of a way to visualize how to describe the idea that is going on in my head about what I'm talking about here. So let's say you're an entrepreneur or you're a nonfiction writer you want to help people, whether it's a future customer or just a regular reader of nonfiction, like self-help. You need to know where your readers are, your ideal clients or your ideal reader. You need to know what stage they are in their lives. And you recognize, at least through the lens of what you're offering, you need to know that they're basically in a rut. So you can visualize that as a circle, and you can see that, they're trying to get out of that rut. And so it's not a perfect circle. So there's some variations of that circle. But once they read your book, they are now able to step out of that circle and step inward, actually, within that circle, and go along the spiral trajectory. So you're not in that circle anymore. You're in another frame of mind. You're in another realm of possibility. And with that, you have ups and downs. Like when you deviate from that new purpose line, you are able to not experience the same struggles that you were experiencing before. And you are slowly going along the spiral, slowly going into the heart, the center of that circle. And that is where the magic lives. That's where your inner truth lives. And that's basically the end of the line. And that's another idea that I have been introducing on social media as well. The inner, the center of that circle is basically infinite. So it's sort of like Zeno's paradox, where you think you're getting better in your life. You read this book, or you're in this mastermind, and you're learning how to do better about a certain thing. You're like that much closer to the heart, to the center of that circle. But there's always more to learn. There's always more of yourself to uncover. So it's sort of like peeling the onion of that circle, and you're getting closer and closer to the heart of who you are, closer to the truth. And you're basically finding that where you were on that circle, in that rut of your life, you were just living with lies that you believed about your life, about yourself. And that goes back to the inner critic and the outer critic. The critic is there. It's like your subconscious mind. If it's the internal critic, it's your subconscious mind protecting you. You learn that as a kid, and you were under the influence of parents and everyone around you, and you learn how to be in the world. and the outer critic is represented by those other people. So you're learning as you go, as a person or as a creative person, you're learning what can you do and what can't you do to stay safe. But as you grow older, you're able to realize that, you know, those boundaries, their intentions, to bring that term back, they try to guide you along the way based on what they knew about their life. So if they were screwed by someone else, they're going to teach you not to do XYZ, for instance. So, and I'm realizing I'm probably going off on a tangent, and I'm connecting a lot of dots here. So
it's like
yeah. So you can you can guide me along the way if I'm going too far from your question.
Well, you know what? It's like the ancestral. Here we're talking about paradigms. We're talking about, you know, ancestral stuff that's just passed on. It's yes. Like, well, why are you doing that? Well, I don't know. They did it because, you know, the Coopers were mad at the Smiths, and so we hate the Coopers and we hate the Smiths. Right. I don't even know why. We just were told that we were supposed to hate them. So right. Yeah, so there's that protection, that immediate inner protection of, well, I can't go near them because I'm keeping myself safe. So yeah, I mean, you're making so many incredible connections. We'll can go on a little bit more before we go on to the second question. So finish connecting I know your neurons are still lighting up.
So, well, I'm aware that someone listening to this may be like, you know, maybe they're a nonfiction writer and they're like, you know, I just want to learn how to write these sentences or whatever. And there are editors out there who can help with that, and I can help with that. I love copy editing, you know, fixing grammar and spelling mistakes and all that. But for some reason, the grounded writer concept has been bubbling inside. So if we're going back to this circle idea and the truth inside in the center, like as an editor, I was operating along that circle, doing what I thought I needed to do. And that's not to say that is wrong. That's a necessary component to, you know, helping writers. You know, they need editing 99% of the time. But as I was going along those lines, I felt like that it's almost like an inner light, and it's like shining out of the circle, and it's like maybe pulsing. And that pulsing, like we were talking about ripples earlier, see more connections here. So that pulsing kind of agitated that circle and made me realize, wait, there's something more here that editors aren't really talking about. Like you can hire editors and they'll fix your spelling mistakes and they'll happily, you know, help you. And there will be other editors who help you with developmental work and help you with structural stuff. I can do all those things, but there was something missing, I felt, about the heart and embodiment. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have an idea, you have to feel it in your pinky toe or in your elbows or whatever. But to be able to really tap into the truth of why you feel why you were chosen to write about it. And maybe, you know, if the idea of being chosen to write about something feels weird to some people, you could reframe it and say, why am I choosing this? And how can I be different from other writers out there, different entrepreneurs? What am I offering? And what you're offering is such an integral part of what you are bringing into the world, right? So back to the everything is a remix idea. There are so many people on this earth, and there are no original ideas at this point. However, there are so many people who can be authentic with those original ideas.
Yeah.
So that authenticity is aligned with your integrity, and the integrity is aligned with your purpose.
Yeah.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that some people I know, I've talked with someone a while ago who's, I remember saying, I don't feel a purpose. Like, I'm just living my life. And that's true for so many people. And I think the first step, you know, whether they have an idea to write or to create something, is sort of beside the point. It's more about getting, the first step, I think, is getting that awareness. Like, who am I on the inside? And I, prior to like 2008, I did not have that awareness. And I just, before then, I was really concerned about what other people were thinking about me, and am I doing the right thing? And like, I was trying to do everything by what the rules said, without really understanding that I was ignoring who I was. And that is the most unique and powerful thing that you can offer to someone else.
Yeah.
Whether it's like in person, like talking with a friend or lover or a stranger, that is an ongoing practice that I'm learning. I'm not an expert at it. I'm like an introvert who could like be happy and stay in my place forever, probably. But I realized that, you know, sharing my voice and my vision can help others. And that's not just me, that's other people. So if anyone who's listening who is doubting themselves in terms of like, they have this idea and they want to share it, and they see that mainstream people are not really aligned with it, then it's time to step up and lead.
Really, yeah. Yeah, it's so much of what you said. I mean, people come to you, people come to the person that they choose for certain reasons. And because like you said, ideas have been done. It's just a matter of how you approach it and your authenticity. People will come to you, people will come to me because they like you as a person, because they like what you offer, because they like your energy, because they like how they feel around you. Like they like all of these components because it's your take, your version on that. So it really is about, it's just when people, I feel so much, and then we're going to go on to question 2 because we're getting to the top of the hour. But when people are so disconnected, I feel like so much of what you're talking about is connection, that heart center, that alignment, that just knowing your purpose, that when people don't know their purpose because they're so stuck in the grind of living, but not really living, just what they perceive as living is paying the mortgage, paying the rent and all that kind of stuff. It's just like taking those baby steps to get more connected and step into your body. Like, what do I actually like? What don't I like? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What am I not good at, but I enjoy and I want to get better at? Who do I like hanging out with? Who are like toxic people in my life that I want to get rid of? What's my story? Like, what do I have to say? Because everybody has something to say. We just often don't realize it. We all have a story. We're all the main character of our movie. It's just how much we choose to participate.
Exactly.
In it. So, okay, so let's get to question 2.
Okay.
So we've kind of touched on this, but tell us a little bit more about how you incorporate more creativity into your own life.
Well, just the fact that the grounded writer idea it exists, that is what I'm incorporating into my life in business. Like, already said, that it just sort of kind of bubbled out, right, of what I was doing. So I have a fairly good idea of what that represents in my business, but creating it, as an entrepreneur myself, like making it so that it's understandable for people has been an ongoing process. And I've actually struggled, to be honest, with finding a way to depict this in like an Instagram post. It's a static image, and I did share the spiral, and there's not just the spiral. There's a wave that goes along the line of the spiral, and it made me realize that I need to maybe do a presentation, or like I don't know if it's a webinar, but like, what's happening soon is a mini course that I'll be unveiling that will go more in depth into the structure, like Kurt Vonnegut had the story shapes. So the spiral and the wave and all that just helps me make sense of what is going on through my mind. And
Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is worth anything or not, but you know how people have like all those like things go around, which one are you, A, B, C, D, or E, or whatever. What if there was something with different shapes and lines, and then you gave like little characteristics or something and just said, which one are you?
Mhm.
So just as a way for people to kind of slowly integrate it into their minds,
Like that.
to grasp the concept, and then you can take it on the deeper level. Because I always talk about, how it's never a straight line to get from A to B. Usually it's like zigzag or curvy, or sometimes broken lines, or there's like so many different kinds of lines, but it's usually never straight.
Right.
Doesn't go the way you expect it to go. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that just kind of popped into my head.
I like that. See, now my ideas are connecting to your ideas. That's awesome. So and that brings me to another, I didn't think I would say this, but another shape to kind of visualize is the infinity shape. So one thing I learned from my friend Sammy, who is a life coach as well, and we were talking a few months ago, and we were talking about infinity as a way of exchanging energy from person to person. And I never really thought of myself as like an energy type of, I never thought I would talk in those terms, but it made sense to me how, as we're talking and I say something and then you say something, there's an exchange of information. And we can think of, the lopsided infinity symbol surrounding us. And there's like that point in the middle. There's a loop around you, there's a loop around me, and then there's a point in the middle where there's an understanding. So, that's just another idea that can be incorporated into that methodology. Whether this makes sense to everybody doesn't really matter, but it's more like another way, right? So
it does. It does.
There's the Save the Cats structure, that's really famous. There's the structures of Kurt Vonnegut, gateless writing, which is a methodology that I have been trained in and I've been really inspired by that. That story structure for gateless writing is based on, I think it's called the Enso. It's like that almost full circle that Zen monks paint.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, it's also a circular structure. But I just kind of take that another step further. So all these different geniuses out there have come up with different story structures. And that is, the grounded writer structure is just another way to think about it. It's may not work for everybody, but if it can help others, then that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, is people, they find what works for them. So before we move on to the final question, because we're getting to the top of the hour, tell us about just some other things that you enjoy doing for yourself. Do you like traveling? I know we're in times of COVID, but do you like cooking? Do you like, we know you like writing, just, yeah, whatever kind of.
So I think COVID has put a damper on this too, but I'm an Argentine tango dancer as well. So I started that back in 2003. And then I fell away from it after, I think I was doing it for 5 years in the Boston area, and I was really obsessed. And I fell away from it for a while. And then a few years ago, I'm like, I need to get back into this. It gives me energy. I have such creative juice, I guess you could say, when I'm in that zone. So just like when you're in flow and writing, you can get into that same zone in dancing. I don't know any other dances other than Argentine tango. So I can't speak for other dances, but when you're in the zone and on the dance floor, and you dance in a circle too. So there's another influence there. It feels like you're getting to the heart of who you are. Like, you have that close embrace. Usually you can do an open embrace, but when it's in close embrace, you have a heart-to-heart connection. And when I can feel the follower's heartbeat and we can get to the zone together, and I'm not like stepping on their feet or bumping into other people, it is just bliss. It's purely amazing. So
Wow, what a beautiful metaphor.
Yeah.
That's, whoa. God, there are so many, hearing you talk about things, the commonalities, the themes in your life are the heart centers, the circles, the connection. I mean, it's within everything that you do.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good way to kind of underline the idea that each person has something to offer. And I spent so much of my life not believing that. And I would, back to the circle visual, I was just kind of living my life. I thought I was getting better and better in certain things, but in terms of like who I was just kind of spinning around in circles and not really doing anything. And then once I realized, oh no, wait, what I'm learning has potential to help others, that embodied me. That idea alone embodied me, and I embody that idea, and I'm able to step into that. Is it scary? Oh yeah. I still deal with fear stepping up, and this is my first podcast appearance ever, so I was a little bit nervous before. So I appreciate that it was with you. It's like this was the perfect way to step into the podcast experience, talking about my ideas and talking about it through your framing it in terms of creativity.
Oh, thank you.
So I just hope that helps others as well.
Thank you. It definitely will. Definitely will. And we're going to kind of wrap it up and put a nice little bow on it with the third question, kind of touching on everything we've talked about, but summing it up, asking, so why do you think creativity is important?
Creativity is important because to go back to the beginning, I mentioned creativity is power. If you're not harnessing your creativity, you're living in that rut, but it's not just that. It's more about, if you are open to the idea that story ideas or whatever creative idea you have chose you. Like it's there for a reason, right? And if you do not allow it to express itself through you as a conduit for that idea, then that could very well wreak havoc on your life, your mindset, your health. Like if that idea really wants to be expressed, and you stuff it down inside and you don't want to even acknowledge that you have that idea, then that will express itself in other ways in your body. When I grew up, I had many migraines. And once I finally started to express myself, the migraines were few and far between. I don't even remember the last time I had a migraine. So it can, if you stifle it, it will try to get your attention somehow.
You know what, Stan? That's listeners. You need to be hearing this. So you need to be paying attention to this. And I want to highlight it again, is that it needs to be expressed through you. When this idea is downloaded to you, when it comes to you, it's meant for you. And whatever the time frame looks and how it gets expressed, it's about it being expressed, because that expression and repression and what you're talking about, it's so true. It wreaks havoc on your body. It affects your relationships. It affects you physically. It just affects everything. And we don't give it that much credence, but really it's everything. So it's giving yourself the awareness, just those little whispers, and taking action. They don't have to be huge steps. You don't have to go from A to Z. That's why they have the alphabet. It's A, B. Sometimes you go from A to D.
Right.
It's
I like that. Yeah.
Sometimes you kind of figure it out, but it's giving yourself grace and being more playful, kind of like rounding it out. Just like you talked about your daughter in the beginning. Mix things up. Find out what works, find out what doesn't work. And like, don't be so judgmental on ourselves. We're so ridiculous with this whole critic thing. So Stanley, can you please tell people how they can connect with you?
Yes, you can find me at thegroundedwriter.com. As of this moment, it redirects to stanleydankoski.com, but by the time this is live, there'll be a new page with an offering. And you can also email me at stanley@groundedwriter.com.
Great. So Stanley, I want to thank you so much for being here. I've just enjoyed this hour and talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So I just want to, I want to thank the audience. I want to thank the listeners. Thank you so much for being here and catching the replay. And the space is all about inspiring, sharing stories, and connecting. So please like, follow, and share so we can spread the word. We've always needed this, and we need it now more than ever. So I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, wherever you are in this world. And we'll be talking to you soon. So goodbye, everybody. Feeling inspired? There are so many ways to do things for you, to get yourself moving, to get your creative juices flowing, and to have fun. Check out I Am Creative and Express Yourself Publishing. Go to iamcreativephilly.com, iamcreativephilly, PHILLY.com, and check out the experiential kits. Check out Creative Shui, which is all about creative inspiration and guidance. And for Express Yourself Publishing, there's so many multi-author book opportunities. So I would love to chat with you so much. Everybody's creative. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has an expression, and I can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much for taking this hour to listen to our stories and share the energy. And I wish you a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this world. Bye, everybody.